you mentioned some of these founders or some of these brands are rough around the edges, these emerging brands. And I think I'm guessing your answer is like, there hasn't been one that has not been rough around the edges, and you help them out in all kinds of different ways. But for people out there that are thinking about franchising their business and they think it needs to be all buttoned up, or they don't even, so often the comments that we get are, Eric, I don't know what I don't know. And, and I don't know how buttoned up this is or how rough around the edges it really is. And so we start to help them understand really what they have. And sometimes they don't have anything, Dan. It's like, you need to go back and spend another couple of years and getting those financials figured out, or, whatever that homework might be for them. We give them honest advice. Sometimes it's like, you got something really special here, and it is, blue ocean, and your unit economics are way better than you even realize in franchising. And there's going to be a lot of demand for this particular, concept in the space, but it's rough around the edges a little bit. So talk about being rough around the edges. What do you see when you see a concept that's rough around the edges, and how do you help mold that and shape that into a brand that is, a national to a global brand that is no longer rough around the edges?
Yeah. So I'll give you a couple examples. So when I was at Five Guys, the first Five Guys closed, little known secret, first Five Guys closed. So the good news out there, if you've ever had a concept and it didn't work at first, Five Guys original store didn't work. They had 4 locations. They didn't even have POSs. They didn't really understand analytics like a chain would understand, but they had a line out the door. They won best burger. They won best this, best that. Halal Guys were street carts. They had street carts where people were lined up down the block to eat there. It's like, I had nothing to do with that. But to then take that into brick and mortar and turn it into a restaurant chain, I think what I do is easier than the brand. If the brand the franchise is that long line, right? The franchise is a long line. When I got to Paymore, their first store on Long Island looked like a pawn shop. Still does. It's sort of like a 2-sided store. One looks like what the prototype is, and then the next to it was something that looks like a pawn shop. And he said, no, I want it to look more like a Verizon Wireless or You Break, I Fix. Like, okay, so now they all look like. So we can help do that. But when I met the guys at Paymore, their numbers were ridiculous. Makes you never want to open up a food franchise. And I had nothing to do with that. So just basically then helping them go. And then, the location wasn't great. So teaching them, teaching a brand about real estate or systems, franchising is a business of systems. So that's the easy part that we have. We have this thing that we call links in the chain, every link, like a chain that goes around your neck, every link it takes to open, every link it takes to operate. You got to document that step. Right? So it's step by step, and then you can reuse that over and over and over with new brands. But also on those links is all the places where you buy stuff and what it's supposed to cost. And who, if you're opening up a pizza place and you need a pizza oven, well, they don't deliver them the same day you order, right? So you have to know, what's the item, what's the lead time, what's the cost, all that stuff we have into this system is this sort of links in the chain. Those are tools that people like you or me have. Those are tools you can hire a marketing person to make marketing better. You can do whatever, but a concept has to first have it. That it factor is people like it. So go to a food court and notice that one person in the food court is busier than everyone else. There'll be someone that's busy, someone that's slow at lunch, right? All the same customers, they're deciding to go. That's the easier brand to work with. I can build systems. I know systems as well as anybody right now. And it's the system isn't the magic. The magic is whether people like it, like at Paymore or at Glow. The Glow's her numbers, Glow is a skincare. She's in the membership skincare business. In a secret that a lot of membership brands use is membership pre-sales, right? So before you even open, you're doing membership pre-sales, basically getting your money before the first customer is even served. And she wasn't doing that at Glow, yet her numbers were ridiculous. Her average startup cost is around $200,000 or $300,000. Her worst item, 19, after royalties and marketing, that's $250,000, I think, and the best net's $800,000. So it's the fact that she already had something that was so successful with customers that's the franchise. Like the fact that now we're blowing it up and we're systems, like I go out and look at real estate, like it's important. It's just not as important as that. But there's a system. I mean, one of the easiest things to do is to create I believe success leaves clues. And so no matter what business you're in, you can find people that have already been successful. And most of these people are willing to share their secrets. So I'm in a group called Young Presidents, and I'm in a restaurant forum of people that are in the restaurant industry, wildly successful. Like I'm the worst one in that group. I don't even know how they have me, but I'm the worst. They're wildly successful. But people that'll teach you stuff. They'll basically teach you how to learn stuff that you don't know. But back to the brand. Now where I've gone wrong though over the years is I've taken on brands that didn't have good fundamentals, right? There's been years that my ego said, oh, anything I touch will turn to gold. I wind up taking on a brand that doesn't have a line out the door, that doesn't have, really good numbers. I'm like, oh, I'll fix this as I grow it, right? And it's like, that's stupid. So, franchisees really, if I were buying a franchise, like I would just squarely look at the numbers and the existing franchisees. Like just go talk to these, if they're happy and they want to open up more stores, it almost doesn't matter what the brand doesn't have. Like some of those things that they don't have, they'll get it over time, but you can't fix that.
You mentioned two things in passing that I think probably are telling about how you think about business and probably, lead to a level of your success. One is like, hey, you're in the food court, just look at the lines, and there's so many different things you can do. There's just old school grassroots, like, versus all the analytics. And the other thing that you mentioned is probably even better than that. You mentioned you found somebody on LinkedIn or Orange Theory person. You knew that they were probably a hustler. You knew that they had a good background. They had an eye for what you wanted. You offered to pay them to do some basically market research for you. Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.